The main word-finding module in Cuespeak is called QA, and it's one of the most flexible of the exercise formats in that it can be used to target word finding alongside other aspects of language processing, such as understanding speech, reading, and semantics. The QA module contains over 1,000 questions. Each question contains 3 main elements: the question itself, a multiple-choice answer, and a collection of tools to facilitate spoken production of the answer. This basic format containing all the elements is called QA1. But what makes this module so flexible is that we can hide certain elements of the basic format, and in so doing we can impose different demands on the user. If you hide the multiple choice element, you get a task in which the user is required to answer the question without that answer being represented by a picture, since the target picture is now hidden. This format is called QA2, which we also call naming unpictured items. What happens if instead we hide the picture at the top? This picture is designed to make it easier to understand the question. So if you hide this picture, this puts more pressure on the user to understand the question. So QA3 acts as a task targeting comprehension as well as word finding. And you can choose whether the question is presented in spoken form only, in written form only, or both. If you hide all the pictures, you get a format which requires both understanding and word finding. This is QA4. This effectively turns QA into a quiz, which can be presented either in spoken form or written form. The spoken version can be good for use in group settings where it's hard for everyone to see the screen. And you can use the written version if you want to place tougher demands on reading comprehension. Finally, you can show just the pictures. This strips away all the language, creating a picture association task to target semantics. This can be useful for establishing how much of a person's comprehension difficulties are due to central semantic access problems. With any of these permutations, if the user gets stuck, they can restore the missing component simply by touching the space where that element would normally appear. So for example, you can restore the question, the top picture, or the multiple choice pictures. Each of these permutations of QA is available in settings under question format. In a subsequent video, we'll look at some ways to interpret the differing responses to these permutations. Now let's have a look at the toolbar in QA. At either end we have navigation buttons to take you on to the next question or back to the previous question. It's worth noting that you can, however, set the questions to auto-advance once the multiple choice component has been correctly completed. The blue question button plays the question in spoken form. If you want to hear the question broken down into chunks, you can touch the blue question tabs underneath the top picture. The orange button plays a closure cue. For some users, hearing this cue will increase the likelihood of them being able to say the target word. If it's effective a lot of the time, you can configure QA to play this cue automatically when the target picture is pressed. To do this, go into Settings and go to Speech Heard on Correct Selection and choose Closure Cue from the options. The green button plays the target word in isolation, and the red mouth button plays a video of the target word being spoken. There are videos for the whole word, the word broken down into syllables if the word is polysyllabic, and the word broken down into the individual speech sounds or phonemes. There's a slow play button if you want to see the videos run more slowly, and a mute button if you want to practice saying the words with just pictures and no sound. Finally, there's a record button if you want to record your attempts at saying the word and hear them back to compare them to the model. The final buttons on the toolbar are the tutorial video button, which plays a very short demonstration of how to use the exercise, and a scoring button, which can be used to keep a record of how many of the target words the user produces correctly. The score for this is presented at the end of each exercise. Just now we looked at how you can vary the format of the exercise to target different aspects of language. But we also have a great deal of control over the content of the questions. We can control the subject matter by choosing different sets in settings. And we can select target words according to a number of variables. We can decide whether we want to work on high-frequency everyday words or lower-frequency less common words. You can decide how many sounds you want the words to have, so you can tailor the choice to the current abilities of the user. You can also choose words according to the first sound of the word. This way, if you want to target a particular sound or avoid sounds the user can't produce, you can tailor the selection very precisely. You can do the same with final sounds. You can also choose words according to the number of syllables they have, the number of letters, where the main stress position is in the word, and whether you want to avoid or include consonant clusters in the words you're working on. You can also decide what type of words you want to target, whether nouns or verbs or adjectives, for example. And if you're working on sentence processing, you can decide what thematic role you want the nouns to play. The settings we've looked at here are those for the QA format. You'll find many of the same options available in other formats, but there are some differences across exercise types. We'll be looking at how to configure other formats in subsequent tutorials.